Hello and welcome everybody to the Alnwick Garden. It's a privilege to be able to be involved in today's forum with you all. I'd like you to take a second to think about where you were when you became aware that modern living was having a serious effect on the environment. It may be different for us all. I remember the 1980s, the concerns around the ozone layer and the whole over the Antarctic. Awareness was raised around the use of aerosols and the impact they were having. This then led to action and the Montreal Protocol and the banning of CFCs. Now, if I ask you to take a second to think back to when climate change action became a real intrinsic value for you, it will begin different for us all. Whether you are proactive through personal motivation and drive, through your profession or both. For me, it's a combination of both. Individual changes to reduce emissions are arguably the most easiest ones to make. When it came to looking at zero carbon transitions for our organisation, it became a lot more complex, and that's what happened in 2021. It would be wrong to say the Alnwick Garden was not committed to climate change action prior to 2021. However, it was a pivotal point in our strategic goals to ensure that it was embedded across the whole of our organisation then. Our approach since then has been to get informed and skilled. We created a designated role within the organisation who had the responsibilities of measuring our carbon footprint and carbon offsetting. Getting connected, we looked at what groups and forums there were in the local community. What could we learn from them? What was already happening in the local area? We needed to discover key collaborators. Who is it we can partner with to make this journey effective, sharing with others our experiences and learning by doing? And making an action plan, starting to implement the solutions both short-term and long-term to help us achieve net zero. We know it is possible. I'd now like to introduce you to our Climate Action Programme Manager, Craig Ellis, who's going to talk you through the process of us measuring our carbon emissions.
So when I started about a year ago, my first job was to look at the emissions from the garden and to measure its carbon footprint. So we had to look at what the worldwide standards were. Was there a UK standard, or could we just do it ourselves? We looked into it, and there was the greenhouse gas protocol. It's a worldwide standard. So we looked into that. Initial thoughts, it's enough to put anybody off. Folders and folders of complex methodology, etc., etc. So what we needed to do first was just drill down and see which bits were relevant to us. First and foremost, we looked at the corporate standard. That was essentially all the fuels we used, whether it be electricity generated off site, all the fuels we burnt on site, and to measure those. And principally, we were going to do that by looking at a lot of the payments and the quantities we'd ordered throughout the year we were looking at. We'd now decided what we were going to measure, so how did we go about that? This can be a bit of a minefield, but actually it essentially involved two of us. Myself coordinating, producing spreadsheets to collect the data, and predominantly the finance department and our invoices. By putting those together, I could see how much of our fuel bills had been. I could look at business travel, etc., etc. Once I'd done that, there is lots of information via the government, because they want us to do this, using their conversion factors. It then involved logical thought. Have I covered all the aspects I need to? And if I'm perfectly honest, it then just took time and a lot of caffeine. So we've now measured our carbon footprint at the Alnwick Garden. That amassed to 577 tonnes a year. But we're a 53-acre green site, surrounded by trees, plants, shrubs. They all help sequester that carbon dioxide. So with the help of the US Forestry Department and some satellite images, again, I was able to do this at my computer. We took 6,500 samples of our 53-acre site to look at how much carbon dioxide we took in, what good we were doing. And surprisingly, we actually take in 172 tonnes every year. Put the two together, what we give out, what we take in, left us with an offset of 404 tonnes per year. Okay, so now we know exactly where we're at and what we've got to do. So it's then kind of a four-step process. We've got to look at continuing our reduction of our emissions. We could increase our uptake. We need to educate our whole staff, our whole site, on how we could get better at this, and then collaborate with others. So we started to put a plan together. We also wanted to meet sort of national guidelines, national targets as well. So we assessed the data we got and we set ourselves a target of net zero by 2030. But how were we going to do that? So our plan's in place and we're at different stages of implementing many of the items that we've put in our plan. So what's next? We're tackling some of the large energy usage. We'll look at solar panels. We're looking at rainwater collection. One of the issues we've looked at, we're a year in, is we're now assessing the next carbon footprint. How have we done over the last year? To be honest, we've been putting a lot of these things in place and some of them are only coming to fruition now. One of the big questions, how do we reduce our carbon footprint, having just introduced a £15 million investment that's now taking its own energy toll? Those are the next stages. Preliminary results suggest at the minute some areas of our carbon footprint have actually increased, but that's what we need to tackle over the next year.